what you think is a solution might not actually be the solution, and maybe they have a solution that's, better than what you had thought.
Hey, podcast listener, you're about to discover insider tips, tricks, and secrets to making more sales and converting more prospects into customers with email marketing. For more information about the Email Marketing Podcast or the Autoresponder Guy, go to dropdeadcopy.com/podcast. Hey, it's John McIntyre here, the Autoresponder Guy, and it's time for episode 69 of the McMethod Email Marketing Podcast, where you get nitty-gritty techniques, tips, and strategies to make more money with email marketing and sales funnels in your business. Now, today, I'll be talking to Matt Paulson. Matt's a buddy of mine. I met him or know him through a forum called the Dynamite Circle, and he is real smart, he's real switched on, and he's got a great business. And today we're going to talk about the 7 deadly sins of first-time entrepreneurship. Now, this is something that a lot of people don't talk about, especially online, because often we're all chasing, everyone's chasing the latest and greatest tip and strategy or magic bullet sort of system, and we don't often talk about too much about entrepreneurship, at least in the internet marketing field. So that's what's great about Matt. So we're going to talk about the myth of hard work. Do you really need to work hard, or maybe you're not working hard enough? Okay, another issue which could only be described as being a bitch, and you will talk more about that in just a second. And then the other thing worth mentioning is whether you should be a people pleaser or not. Because in business, we exist to serve the market, but you might go a little bit too far with that. So we're going to talk about people pleasing in this episode too. To get the show notes for this episode of the McMethod Email Marketing Podcast, go to themcmethod.com/69. Now this week's McMasters Inside of the Week is this. Email marketing is a piece of the overall puzzle. Okay, so what I mean by that, we've been talking about this on some of the training webinars inside McMasters. Now, McMasters is the private training community I've got for people who want to, learn more about email marketing and sales funnels and make more money in their business. There's a forum and webinars. One of the parts of the membership is these training webinars, and one thing that we've been going through lately is this issue of email marketing. It's a piece of the overall puzzle. It's not the whole. It's not the puzzle. Right, so some people come in and they think, well, I'm going to use an autoresponder, and that's going to totally change my business. And unfortunately, it just doesn't work like that. Okay, an email marketing or your autoresponder is a piece of the overall sales funnel and the overall marketing strategy for your product, for your company. Okay, and when you understand that, then you start to look at, well, maybe my weak point is not the autoresponder. Maybe I need a better sales page, or maybe I need better traffic. Maybe I need to be split testing. There's a range of different directions you can go in. Perry Marshall talks about this in 80-20 Sales of Marketing. So that's the insight of this week is don't focus on email marketing to the exclusion of everything else. Don't treat email marketing like it's a magic bullet, and sometimes it can be portrayed that way. It's not. Okay, it's not a magic bullet. It's a piece in the overall puzzle, and you need to treat it that way and think, is it good to devote your resources in that area, or should you be doing something else? Okay, that's a very important question to ask. I've got one review this week. This one is from Matthew DP. Matthew says, 5 stars, and he says, the absolute best way to learn email marketing. I've been listening to John's podcast from episode 1. John has brought on some of the best email marketers onto the show and drops knowledge bombs on a regular basis. Keep up the good work. So just a quick little review from Matthew. Thanks for the review, Matthew. I love getting these. So if you want to leave a review, go to iTunes. It's a bit of a clunky interface. Go to the store. You can search for the McMethod Email Marketing Podcast. If you just search for McMethod, you might be able to find it too. Leave me a review. Tell me what you think about the show. So that's it. Let's get into today's interview with Matt Paulson on the 7 deadly sins of first-time entrepreneurship. It's John McIntyre here, the Autoresponder Guy. I'm here with Matt Paulson to talk about the 7 deadly sins of first-time entrepreneurship. Now, I met Matt on the forum for kind of people who work online and do a bit of traveling and all that sort of stuff. And this is the first time we've spoken, but he sent me an email out of the blue I think it was a couple days ago or a week ago, telling me that he's writing a new book. I think it was on 40 different things, 40 cool rules in this book, which we'll talk about in a bit. And I said, well, why don't we get on the podcast and we'll talk about some of these rules? Because Matt's had some really good success online, especially with email marketing, but also just with business in general. And he's just really switched on. So I thought, get him on, find out what his thoughts are on all this stuff. So it's going to be a little bit about email, but also some more of the general business stuff, which, whether you're kind of new to the game or whether you've been doing it for a while, it can be really, really helpful to kind of either revisit this stuff if you've already heard it before, or kind of just knuckle down. Like, this is fundamental stuff that's really, really important, and it does help at any time to kind of brush up on it. So we'll get into it. The 7 deadly sins of first-time entrepreneurship. Matt, how are you going?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Good, man. Good. Really, it's good to have you on. It's good to finally connect, man.
Yeah, it's good to be on the show. Maybe I should take a moment just to introduce myself to your audience because I assume most of these people don't know who I am.
Go for it.
So I have three different businesses. The first is called Analyst Ratings Network. I publish a daily investment newsletter to, I think, 93,000 subscribers now. So that ends up being several million emails a month, and we do. I sell email ads against that, and there's a premium sponsorship. So we've got maybe 2,000 people paying me $15 a month for kind of the continuity program, where it's basically a premium version of the email newsletter. Two other businesses. One is called Go Photo Contest, and that business helps animal shelters and humane societies raise money by offering photo contest fundraisers. So humane societies can run a contest, people can vote, and then like you pay $1 per vote, and at the end of the contest, whoever wins gets some kind of prize. Third business is called Lightning Releases. It's kind of a press release writing and distribution business, and that business kind of came about a couple years ago because I was issuing some press releases for through PR Web and some of those other guys that for some stuff for Analyst Ratings Network, and I was not very impressed with the results for what I was paying for, and I kind of figured, I bet I could make a distribution network that's as good for not nearly the price, and so far, we're selling a couple hundred of those a month, so people must be agreeing with us. So that's kind of the three businesses I'm running right now. And I'm also obviously in the process of writing a book titled 40 Rules for Internet Business Success. We can talk about that more a little bit later.
Cool. Because what I think I like about what you're up to is that it's not your typical internet marketing thing with, like an information product and, a bit of paid traffic or something like that. Like you've kind of got your own thing going on, which I mean, at least in my sort of network, I don't really know many people doing it the way you're doing it, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, I think what a lot of people do is, as if you're teaching internet marketing to people, you need to make money teaching internet marketing to people. I've already got, a business that generates a crap ton of cash, so I can sell a book for $8 and not really worry about whether or not I get people paying me $1,200 for some kind of webinar product. I've already got the money, so it's more about just kind of getting the information out there and, building a personal brand. So it's hopefully a lot of value for the $8-10 the book is going to cost in a month or so.
Cool. All right. Well, let's get into the 7 deadly sins of first-time entrepreneurship. You mentioned a few of them before we hit record, but man, I'm excited to dig in. Let's get into it. What's number 1?
Sure. The first deadly sin is not doing enough work to get your business off the ground. I see a lot of people, I get a lot of people that say, "Hey, Matt, can I buy you lunch? I want to ask you about your business. I'm thinking about starting one." And they'll tell me what they want to do and that they're really excited and they're getting started. And I see them again 2 or 3 months later, and then they've done maybe 10 or 20 hours of work in that 3-month period. So if you're going to start a business, you need to be working on it. And assuming you have a full-time job for 40 hours a week, you need to be spending another 15 or 20 hours a week working on that business until you launch. It's going to be a lot of work, and I think you have to really put a deadline out there and say, I'm going to launch on this date, regardless of what it takes to have happen to do that. Because I think if you don't have like a real kind of deadline for a launch date, it's easy just to push it off and work slowly, and just you tend to never get it done, or if you get it done, it's way beyond the point where it's going to be valuable to anybody.
Right, and I think the challenge, I mean, Dan mentions this, we both know Dan on Tropical MBA, and he mentions this where a lot of people get into the internet game because they want to be able to make money, get that passive income and, make a lot of money without doing much work. And yeah, it's possible, and it's a very real thing, and plenty of people are doing it right now, but that's not how it starts. Is that if you want to get to that point, part of the journey, or you got to go through that valley of death where you are working your ass off, because there's so much you have to, not only just to get stuff done, there's just so much you have to learn in terms of, basic skills and also mindset shifts that you have to make to be the sort of person that makes passive income. Absolutely.
I think, I've got businesses where I don't do much work on a daily basis, but, setting them up, there's a lot of work to make that happen. I mean, you think about people like, Tim Ferriss and how he had the supplements business that he supposedly worked on a handful of hours a week. It's like, that he was working a whole bunch just to get to that point so he could do that for a few months to, make it a big thing. The true passive income business just doesn't exist. And somebody's doing work somewhere, whether it's you or like a virtual assistant you hire or a software that you set up. Work's going to be happening. You really can't avoid it.
It's almost like the irony of it's like we all want to build a business, like we've got to work hard, but then we want to skip the working hard bit. But if you skip that, then you don't really have, you're never going to get the business.
Yep. So let's move on to mistake number 2.
Let's do it.
And that's worrying about problems before they're actually problems. So I see some people that are starting businesses and they come up with these huge kind of responses to things that aren't going to be issues for a year or two down the line. For example, let's say you're going to have a website and you think it's going to get some traffic, hopefully a lot, and so you go out and you buy a dedicated server right away. And that's $250, $300 a month when really you could get away with a $5 a month Bluehost account or whatever the cheap option is, somewhat reliable.
Yep.
You can always move down to that dedicated server later. You don't need to get it from day one. So I think it's you really have to work, think about what issues am I actually facing now, and not what could possibly be an issue 18 months from now. And that might mean you have some manual processes when you first get started, and not everything's going to be automated, and that's okay. You start automating and systematizing stuff when it really kind of becomes a pain in the butt. But until it happens, there's not really a good business reason to do that.
That reminds me of Perry Marshall and the whole 80-20, his 80-20 sales and marketing. We did a podcast on it, but this idea that at any point in time, out of 10 things that you can focus on, there's probably 1, 2, maybe 3 that you really should actually focus on.
Sure.
I've noticed this I'm building right now, it's in kind of the optimization stage. We've got ads running on Facebook to a sales funnel for some of my products. And before I started, it's kind of like, well, I need a paid shopping cart and I need some sort of advanced email software and I need this and I need that. And when I kind of stepped back and kind of thought, what do I actually have to do? What's the real problem here? The real problem is I didn't need a shopping cart because I can just use PayPal for now. PayPal's not perfect, but it'll do the job. I don't need the advanced email thing. I've already got Aweber. Aweber's, once again, it's not going to do all the advanced stuff, but it'll do the job for right now. And so a bunch of things like that. So by eliminating all this extra stuff that I didn't really need to do, it's not really a problem yet, it kind of makes me feel maybe a little bit less, I don't know, it's sort of that dopamine rush when you go out and buy a dedicated server or say, a nice shopping cart or something like that. But you kind of eliminate all that and then you can just focus on really what needs to happen. It's like what needs to happen is building a sales funnel, figuring out how you're going to really connect your product with the marketplace and sell it. And this kind of thinking, I've found for me, it's been pivotal in helping me to grow the business. So.
I totally agree. I think when you try to do some of those fancy things too early, you might end up not solving the problem in the right way. It's the term is premature optimization of your business. So it's like, I think I need, this big, dedicated Windows server when actually I need a Linux server. And it's like, oh, well, then I have to go get another server down the line anyway. So I didn't really save myself any time. Or you think that the autoresponder series looks like this, or the email marketing funnel looks like this, but then later on when you have a whole bunch of people in it, you find out that doesn't really work. You didn't set it up right to begin with because you didn't really know what you were doing yet. So I totally agree that you are on the right track to do just enough work to to kill whatever you're trying to kill ahead of time. Let's go on to mistake number 3.
Okay. That's
not talking to your customers, kind of when you're doing product development. So I think some people don't talk to their customers when they're building a product because I think they already understand what problem that you're trying to solve or what your customers are thinking. And I don't think you can rely on that. When you talk to customers, they tend to throw wrenches kind of into your thought processes, and they give you more work to do. And it's really easy to ignore those things, but it's just not the right way to do it, because your vision to solve a problem might not be the same as your customers, and you just won't see the problem the same way your customer sees it. What you think is a solution might not actually be the solution, and maybe they have a solution that's better than what you had thought, but you won't know that if you don't talk to them.
Yeah, this is huge, whether it's customers or prospects. When I tell people a lot that you got to have empathy and you got to do surveys, and if you can, get on the phone with them. But this is a good issue in that before you create even products that marketing aside, that you need to talk to them. And often I find like the big challenge is really finding out like what's the real problem that you're trying to solve. Like it's easy enough to kind of go in and be like, well, I'm going to solve this problem. But
sure,
what you really want to do is talk to the customer, talk to the prospect, and find out like what's the actual problem that he's trying to solve, and why does he want to solve it? Because if you come out of guns blazing, I'm trying to think of an example. Like with email copywriting, for example, I might have a product on how to write an autoresponder. But what people might want to, because I thought people want to learn how to write emails. But maybe what people need and want is to be a copywriter, and then they can use that as part of their autoresponder thing or for sales letters or something like that. Now, people seem to they like the course. This isn't actually a problem, but if it was, maybe people don't actually care about autoresponders. They just want to know how to write stuff that converts and sell stuff. In which case, I'd be better off creating a different product with a more focus on that. But I wouldn't know that if I hadn't spoken to the customers.
Yeah, or maybe they don't even want to learn how to write autoresponders. They just want you to write one for them.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I think this really goes back to really understanding your market while you're building your product. I see this a lot with software people that they, want to build the next great software as a service product or some app, and they think they know exactly how it's going to work, and then they end up doing a bunch of work, and it turns out that they kind of built the wrong tool to solve the problem.
Yeah. I've seen that happen a lot. All right, then let's number 4.
Yeah, that's waiting for permission. I think people that are first-time entrepreneurs, they tend to think that they need to get an endorsement from somebody, whether that's like a trusted kind of friend or family member that says, "Yeah, you can do this," or some kind of person that they look up to. Often this ends up being people like Pat Flynn and John Lee Dumas. So it's like I've actually heard somebody say like, I emailed Pat Flynn to ask him if my business idea was good, but he never got back to me. So it's like, that's the thing that's going to stop you from starting your business. So you're telling me it's Pat Flynn's fault that your business never got off the ground. It's not your fault. In reality, you don't need anyone's permission to start a business. You just can't wait on anyone else. You don't need to ask permission. You need to kind of blaze your own path and just really move forward and not expect to get a pat on the back from some big name. I mean, the pat on the back is going to be 5 years down the line when you've got $1 million business, and they'll say, "Hey, good job."
Yeah, and I think there's an element here where people, when they want the permission, it's kind of like when people start, there's a huge fear of failure, as though like, failing is something to be avoided, and that if you can get to a green light from Pat Flynn or a mentor or a friend, maybe that's going to mean your business is going to be successful. But if they say no, well, you're probably in for a world of hurt and pain, and you're never going to make any money. But
those people can be wrong too. I mean, they don't always know everything.
I think they almost always are wrong. Like, it's kind of like it's not even really about what they say. If you have the sort of determination and grit and persistence that, you're going to go out there, you're going to fail. Like, that's just par for the course. But if you're the sort of person that's just going to go through that and be like, I'm going to figure this out. I don't care what it takes. I'm going to figure it out. There's no way you can lose. I mean, you might die, get hit by a bus, but assuming that doesn't happen, sooner or later, you're going to be successful, because it's more about that having that attitude. It's not about the people that tell you, "Hey, you can go and do it. Here's permission." No,
but I think if you look at like, you start with the Internet Business Mastery guys, and Pat Flynn kind of did his own thing, without really asking for permission from them, and all of a sudden he's bigger than they are, and then John Lee Dumas sees Pat Flynn doing podcasts, all of a sudden he's bigger than Pat Flynn. It's you shouldn't see that it's the person you're looking up to as somebody to copy and to do exactly what they're doing. It's like, where is he missing the mark? How can I be 10 times better than he is or she is? And sure, I mean, granted, half the stuff you're going to do isn't going to work. I've got, a list of failed business ideas a mile long, but that's part of the process. 80% of the crap you're going to do is never going to work, and that's just failure is part of the process. But 20% will, and you can maximize that and really make it happen.
That reminds me of another one. I don't know if this is one of your rules, but I think it's worth bringing up, is the issue of focus. I watched a video a while back of this. I think it was the editor of the Entrepreneur magazine, one of that. It was about the habits of super achievers. I think the productivity habits, something like that. And this whole presentation, an hour and a half, boiled down. They're really just saying the best guy, like richest guys in the world, Richard Branson, billionaires. What these guys do to be so successful is they just focus. They've got one thing on their, like, one main strategic goal right now. And that the only stuff that they will do or accept on their plate, whether it's interviews or books to write or whatever it happens to be, has to be related to that objective. And if it's not related, they just, don't do it. They're 100% focused on that objective. But if you look at most people when they first start getting into business, they want to go in, the check, especially with online, I might be like, I want to do some e-commerce. And then when that kind of doesn't take off straight, it's like, I'm going to go do some affiliate marketing. It's like, I'm going to go create maybe an ebook. I'm going to do a blog over here. And they're kind of running in 10 directions at once, or even like 4 or 5 directions at once. And what you really need is one direction. And even once you kind of get that knuckled down, you need like within my business right now, I feel like I could go in I got one focus, but I could go down client work, I could go down paid stuff, I could go down consulting, and there's a bunch of different directions. And I know that I need to focus on just one at a time if I'm going to make any progress.
Sure, I think that is one of the sins. And what's his name? Tim Conley did a great job of naming that as shiny object syndrome.
Yeah.
So it's like you work on something and it's like, ooh, there's a shiny object over there. I'm going to go work on that. And then, a month later, you've got like 5 half-finished projects, and then there's nothing done, and you're always moving on to a bigger, better deal, and you never actually launch a product, and you're not really getting anywhere, and you're not really able to learn from like the experience that you have and getting one thing done. You're doing the same work 5 times, but you're not really seeing any results, so you don't really know what you did right or what you did wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of had that happen when it was October last year. I went to, DC Bangkok, the conference in Bangkok, and came back, and I'd kind of been working for a few months on a supplement business with a guy here in Thailand, and realized that the whole reason I got into that was because that was where I was going to make a whole ton of money. And I got back, and it didn't stopped feeling right, and all of a sudden I realized that I kept looking for stuff that I thought was going to make me a millionaire. And whether it was e-commerce or supplements or even, marketing and stuff, I kept looking for the best thing that's going to make it. And then I kind of stopped and thought, well, hang on, if I could just focus on this email marketing business, if that's all I did, could it be a huge business? I'm like, yeah, it probably could be. So it's like, why even worry about all that other stuff? Because every time I got to go back to the beginning and learn a whole new set of skills and market and all that sort of stuff. Why not just focus 100% on this and see where I can take it? And that was October last year, and things are better than ever now. So
I totally agree. So are you on your path to becoming a millionaire yet?
I'm on the path. I'm not a millionaire.
Yeah.
So
I actually became a millionaire, I think, earlier this year, and it was mostly because I focused on one thing and I really maximized it. Analyst Ratings Network, it gets money from paid, from display ads, from email subscriptions, from email ads, and all that stuff. And I just focused on it for basically 3 years straight and didn't really do all that much else. And 3 years later, I've got close to 100,000 subscribers just by focusing on that one thing.
Yeah, that's cool. I remember reading in part of that story, and I think you posted that in the DC in the brag thread.
Yep.
I'm
Love
waiting.
that thread.
So this thread, for the listener, this is a thread inside the DC, the Dynamite Circle. It's like a paid private forum thing. And there's this thread in there, someone called the bragging thread. So anyone who makes a lot of money or has some sort of big win in their business posts a picture of one guy posted a picture of his tax, was it like his tax invoice or something for $2 million?
Yeah, he had like a $5 million, several $1 million tax bill.
So anyway, so it's great little motivation. But back on the focus thing, that's I love hearing those kind of stories because, all right, so it's on the right track. So if you're listening to this and you've got 5 projects going, or maybe you've only got one and you just focus down on it, this is your reminder that you need to just stay focused on that for another couple of years, and you kind of. I mean, it depends on what you're doing. If you're selling maybe like chicken coops or, nail polish removal, I don't know how big the market's at, but some tiny little market, and the market size is not going to support your $1 million dream, then maybe you need a new business. But for most people, they just need to focus. You can make a lot of money in some tiny markets. So
yeah, I mean, I think you spend, you spend enough time to realize, this is a big opportunity. I've got the right market. I see customers that I can contact easily through whatever method. I see they have a problem. I think I can solve it. It's like once you kind of have those, those bases down, then that's when you sprint and you say, all right, I'm going to look forward. I'm not going to get distracted by looking to the side. This is the one thing I'm going to do, and then I'm going to do it until it's done before I look at something else.
Yeah, there was something that I found that really made it click for me, I think, was like it's scary when I was like, wow, I just want to focus on this one thing, and I hadn't really done it yet. But once I finally kind of committed myself just to this business, it changed things. It's like something kind of shifted in my head, and all of a sudden it became less about trying to find like that opportunistic mindset, which is I think very typical of like a new entrepreneur, where you're always chasing another opportunity. But really the secret of getting making a lot of money, it's not about finding the best opportunity. That's what people, I guess, rookies think it's about. But it's not about the opportunity. It's about what can you make of. I mean, this sounds so cheesy, but what can you make of the opportunity? So whether you could take anything. There's people making a shit ton of money in so many different areas online that you could do, whether it's e-commerce or affiliates or what you're doing, what I'm doing. Like you could make a ton of money in any of those areas, but you're not going to make money in any of them unless you just focus on one of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's really all a matter of execution. There are a lot of great opportunities out there, but it's like which one are you going to pick and actually do something about it? Yeah. And once you're doing it a while, opportunities that are related just kind of show up out of the woodwork. I had a company email me like 6 months ago saying, hey, can I sell ads to your email list? And I said, well, what do the numbers look like? Then they said the CPMs tend to be anywhere from $50 to $100 CPMs, and I get to keep 70% of that. So it's like, let me think, 90,000 people times $50, that's $4,500 every time they want to send an email. It's like, sign me up for that. But that opportunity showed up at my door. It's not something. I didn't go looking for new tangential opportunities right away.
It's interesting how that whole journey thing. I've had that happen with the podcast where it's showed up on someone's newsfeed on Facebook. Some guy who's probably a big marketer, who's a much bigger guy than I am. I feel like I'm just a little guy, but and then I'll get an email from him. She's saying, "Oh, I was just listening to this episode. Great work. We need to talk about doing some sort of joint venture promotion thing." And it's just crazy how just these little doors start opening, and you'd never get to that stage if you didn't just stick with it and focus on something.
Yep. Yeah. The best opportunities will show up on your door once you have some momentum going. But let's go back to the seven deadly sins. I think we're on number 6 now.
We are.
And that's would be building. I mean, we've already talked about this a little bit, but it's building your product or service without doing any marketing up front. I see this a lot with people that write software. I'm a developer by trade, and I have some friends that have made pieces of software. Like I had a guy I talked to last week. He built a big piece of time tracking software. He spent 300 hours on it, and he never did any marketing up front. He put a little website up, and obviously he didn't sell a single one. So when you're building your product, it's really, I think the matter is, how big of an email list can I build, while I'm doing that. It's how can I find my target audience? How can I get them on a list? How can I reach them easily? And, can I reach them cost effectively, whether that's through, buying an email list or Twitter or Facebook or whatever, or just do social media marketing or blogging or who knows what. But it's, what's the biggest email list that you can possibly build while building your product?
Yeah.
And
this email list thing, we should do a podcast on this sometime, but I've spoken to friends here in Thailand where maybe they've got a couple clients, but they want to fire one or a couple of them, and they need to make money. I'm like, well, if you had an email list, I'm usually like, well, just send an email to your list. You probably got a blog, send them an email and say, you're available for hire. Here's the offer. Here's the cost. But most of these people don't have an email list. And, I use my email list for so many different things, whether it's surveys or, tell them to buy products or buy services or just ask for help sometimes, if I need guests for the podcast or whatever it is. And, if you're starting a new product, it's absolutely perfect. You have an email list. You can do more than just sell it to them. You can ask them to reply to the email. You can see if any of them will jump on Skype with you. You can say open it up for beta testers and give them kind of an inside kind of look into the program and really kind of build it with them. Because that's really what the marketing is going to come from too. That's marketing in itself. But then as you talk to them, you're going to find out what the key problems are, which then once you're done and you really start marketing heavy, that's going to then flow into all the marketing outside of that. That's going to be your headline, your copywriting, and your emails and all that stuff.
Yeah, that reminds me of Perry Marshall's 80/20 sales and marketing book that just came out. He says that you should never ever make a cold call. You should always be, kind of stoking the fires and, finding a way to make people raise their hands, whether that's through an email list or, through some kind of lead form that you have. If you're just trying to find people out of the blue, it's not a winning game plan. It's, what can you give them so that they'll raise their hand and say, hey, I'm a warm lead, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm interested in, say, time tracking or financial stuff or email marketing. Yeah, okay.
So let's move on to number 7. That's the final deadly sin, and that's trying to build a product for everyone. So if you try to build a product for everybody, you end up building a product that doesn't really solve anybody's problems. I have my investment newsletter business. It's primarily geared towards men that are age 40 to 70, have some money and pick their own stocks that are in the U.S. or Canada. It's like if I tried to make that for them and also for 30-year-old single moms that have no money, it's not gonna end up solving the problem for the people that are willing to give me money for it.
Yeah.
And reality is, like, you or I or anybody that's listening to this podcast, we're probably not the Coca-Cola company, so we just don't have the capability of creating a product that's literally for everyone. And even if you think Coke isn't for everybody, people that are diabetic or health conscious don't drink it. So it's the largest brand in the world doesn't even try to build a product for everyone.
Yeah. I think there's this sort of illusion or this myth that, if you help everyone, you can make more money. But like from a marketing perspective or just from like businesses, it's really just solving problems, finding problems that you can solve. If you're trying to solve 2 problems at once, you dilute your effectiveness. So it's kind of less about the size of the market or, by trying to get more people in and really being one of the best people in that industry at solving whatever the problem is. So in your case, it's these guys come to you and for the financial advice, these 40 to 70-year-old men who want to invest in America or Canada. If you started talking about what single mums who don't have much money or have a little bit of money or whatever, what they want to invest in as well, all of a sudden you'd be diluting the sort of the oomph or that power, the problem-solving power of that newsletter. And that's the real problem. It's not the size of the market that really dictates. That's part of what's going to make up how much money you make. But really it's about how well you're able to solve the problem. Yeah,
certainly there are some markets that are too small to make a lot of money off of, but if you have 10,000 possible customers, that's big enough of a market to do something in. I think the common piece of advice is to niche down until it hurts. And I think I'm not just marketing to men. I'm marketing to men that have money that are of this age range that live in this place. And it's like, if I niche down too much more than that, then I'm going to be at a point where it's, hard to reach my potential customers. It's hard to build a product that's, I can charge enough to get enough people to sign up for it. But, if you can target it down pretty well, but not be crazy about it, you're going to have a big enough audience to sell something to.
Right. And you can have a lot of fun with it. Like when we were talking before we hit record here about like this podcast, it's called, the McMethod Email Marketing Podcast. But, I talk a lot about email marketing with the different guests. But the interesting thing that I've kind of, I guess, realized as I've done it is that I can talk about anything that's going to help the people who listen to it. And I know that people who listen to it, obviously they're doing some email marketing or about to or trying. There's a lot of people who are listening to this who probably haven't done anything yet, but they're interested enough to keep listening. And this will act as motivation to do it. But there's people who, they've all got businesses, they've all got problems, they're entrepreneurs at some stage in the journey. And so that kind of means that I can talk about email marketing, or we can talk about anything across the board that's going to matter to these people. So even when you say niching down till it hurts is cool, but it also still gives you a lot of breadth in terms of what you can talk about and what you can create. And
so those are the 7 deadly sins. To go over them quickly. Number 1 is not doing enough to get your business off the ground. Number 2 is worrying about problems before they're problems. Number 3 is not talking to customers. Number 4 is waiting for permission. Number 5 is shiny object syndrome. And number 6 is building your product without marketing it. And number 7 is trying to build a product for everybody.
Cool. I like it. 7 deadly sins. And you mentioned that you've got an email marketing quick tip.
I do have a quick tip, and I heard this on the Startups for the Rest of Us podcast this morning. So apparently on Twitter now, you can create an opt-in where you can actually get somebody's email address with one click. So Twitter has these kind of cards that are add-ons for a promoted tweet. So you can promote a tweet, and you can say, I want to show this promoted tweet to all of my competitors' followers or people that are interested in, say, in my case, like investing in stocks and options and kind of those things. And then underneath the tweet, there's a card, and it's got like the 600 by 150 banner on it. Then underneath that, there's a call to action button, and mine just says subscribe now free. And if you click that, if somebody clicks that button, Twitter will give you their email address just by them clicking on that one thing. So I can actually get people to sign up for my newsletter now just by having them click one button on a tweet that they see that's shown now to all of my competitors' followers. And that's really cool. And I haven't been doing this very long, but from what I can tell, the cost is pretty darn cheap, like under $1 per follower or per email address. So that's
So they click the link and then they're signed up, or do they need to click the link, go to a page, and their kind of email address is already in the form, and they just need to click sign up again?
No, it's just one click, and then after they click it, Twitter will do kind of a behind-the-scenes HTTP GET to whatever kind of marketing automation software you're using to give them your email address, and then you can put them, whatever kind of funnel that you want to. Yeah, so I'm really bullish about it. It's Rob Walling on his product Drip. They wrote a big post on it today. I think it was a guest post, but it's if you go to blog.getdrip.com, you can check it out and kind of see the how-to guide to get that set up.
Interesting. Okay, I'll go check that out. That's cool.
Yep.
Okay, and then before we wrap up here, so right on time, give us a bit more information about this book that you're writing and when it's coming out and all that sort of stuff.
Sure. So the book title is 40 Rules for Internet Business Success. So it's basically kind of all of the lessons that I've learned on building my businesses during the last 7-8 years so that you can kind of avoid many of the mistakes that I made and build your business faster. So if you want more information about the book, it's coming out on July 21st. So after that date, go to the domain 40rulesbook.com and you'll get sent over to Amazon to get the book. Or if you just want to get more information about the book, you can follow me on Twitter. My ID is @MatthewDP, D as in dog, P as in pony. And or you can go to my website. I have an email list there that you can sign up and get some stuff too. It's mattpaulson.com, and Paulson is Paulson.
Cool. Okay, we'll have all that in the show notes at themcmethod.com. I think by the time this podcast goes live, the book will be live as well, so you'll probably be able to go straight to
40rulesbook.com.
40rulesbook.com. I just went to it then, actually. It's taking me to your blog post about writing a book.
Yep, and I'll get that changed.
Interesting. Cool. All right, Matt. It's been really cool to have you on. Thanks for coming.
Yep, thanks for having me, John.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening. If you want to discover more insider tips, tricks, and secrets about driving sales with email marketing, sign up for daily email tips from the autoresponder guy. Go to dropdeadcopy.com/podcast, sign up, confirm your email address, and I'll send you daily emails on how to improve your email marketing and make more sales via email. You'll find out why open rates don't matter and the 7-letter word that underlies all effective marketing and much more.